Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're looking at something that's pretty essential for anyone thinking about prepping or just, wanting to be a little bit more prepared at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about building an amazing canned food stockpile.
Yeah,
And I think we can all agree that
absolutely.
it's a pretty good feeling to open up your pantry and see all those cans, you know?
You're right. It's like peace of mind in a can. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about survival here. This is
No.
about being able to thrive even when things get a little bit tough.
Right.
So for this deep dive, we're using a really popular guide.
Yeah.
It highlights the top 20 canned goods for prepping,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to do what we do here on the deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to take it a step further.
We're gonna break it down.
So we're going to talk about why each item deserves a spot on your shelf.
Mm-hmm.
We'll share some creative ways to use them
Mm-hmm.
and, maybe even sprinkle in a few surprises along the way.
Absolutely. Got to have some fun with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's unlock the pantry of possibilities, right?
Let's do it.
Let's start with the heavy hitters.
Okay.
The foundation of any good diet,
Yeah.
especially if you're facing an emergency,
Right.
and you need to stay energized, protein.
Protein. Absolutely.
So where better to start than with canned beans?
Yeah. You can't go wrong with those. Black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas.
Mm-hmm.
They're little nutritional powerhouses packed with protein and fiber.
Yeah,
Plus, they can last for ages on the shelf.
they really can. Okay, now I know what you're thinking, right?
What's that?
Canned beans. Isn't that just, for chili?
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a common misconception. They are so incredibly versatile.
I mean, they really are.
Salads, soups, dips, you could even make veggie burgers with them.
Yeah.
In a long-term emergency situation, that kind of flexibility is golden.
Yeah,
You can stretch those beans to create so many different meals. It's amazing.
that's a really great point, yeah.
Right.
Already starting to feel inspired, like I need to get more creative in the kitchen.
There you go.
But speaking of brain power, let's move on to another protein-packed favorite,
Okay.
canned tuna and salmon.
Ah, yeah, the classics. But they're not just great sources of protein.
Right.
Did you know they're also bursting with omega-3 fatty acids?
Yeah, those are the good fats.
Right, exactly. Omega-3s are crucial for brain health,
Mm-hmm.
especially important during stressful times,
Yeah.
They can really help with cognitive function, stress management, even mood regulation.
Oh, wow.
And all that's essential when you're facing uncertainty.
I never really thought of it like that, but
Right.
that's a really good point. Even in an emergency, we got to keep our minds sharp and focused.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got those. What about canned chicken?
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like a no-brainer for a stockpile, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Canned chicken is like a blank canvas. Toss it into salads, whip up a quick sandwich, or get really inventive with your recipes. It's up to you.
Yeah, I love that, a blank canvas for flavor.
That's it.
Okay, so protein is covered.
Yeah.
Now, what about all those essential vitamins and minerals?
Yeah. Gotta get those micronutrients.
I'm guessing that's where canned veggies come
You
in.
got it. Canned corn peas, green beans.
Mhm.
They might not be as glamorous as their fresh counterparts,
Right.
but they're packed with nutrients.
Okay.
And here's a surprising fact.
Yeah.
The canning process actually helps to preserve a lot of those vitamins and minerals. Sometimes even better than traditional cooking methods.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I always thought canned veggies were, I don't know, kind of less nutritious,
Nope, they hold their own.
So they're a great way to add some color
Mm-hmm.
and essential nutrients to our stockpile.
Definitely.
And of course, we can't forget about canned tomatoes.
Oh, the base of so many delicious meals.
I know, right?
Diced, crushed, sauced, whatever you prefer.
Yeah.
They add flavor and depth to just about anything.
Mm.
Plus, they're a fantastic source of lycopene,
Uh-huh.
which is a powerful antioxidant.
Antioxidants are good. Right. I know they help protect ourselves from damage.
Exactly. They're like little superheroes fighting off those harmful free radicals.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so tomatoes, check.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of these nutritional powerhouses, we should probably talk about canned spinach, too.
Popeye's favorite.
That's right.
And for good reason. It's absolutely loaded with iron, which is, essential for energy production.
Yeah.
And let's face it, in a tough situation, we could all use a little extra energy.
Okay, before we move on, I just have to ask.
Yeah.
This guide mentions canned pasta.
Uh-huh.
I get that it's convenient,
Yeah.
but isn't it just empty carbs?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
While it's not the most nutrient-dense option, it does offer quick energy, which can be valuable in an emergency situation. Plus, sometimes you just need a little comfort food, especially if you have kids. A familiar bowl of spaghetti can do wonders for morale.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I
Right.
think it's all about balance.
It is, exactly.
Right. We can always boost the nutritional value by adding some of those, canned veggies and protein that we've already talked about.
Now you're getting it. It's all about mixing and matching,
Yeah.
to create balanced and satisfying meals, even if you're working from a pretty limited pantry.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, let's venture beyond the basics here
Okay.
and explore some less obvious canned goods that can really, really elevate your stockpile.
Okay. Now things are getting exciting.
Yeah.
What kind of hidden gems are we talking about?
Well, first up, canned soup.
Okay.
A quick and easy meal in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect for those moments when you need something warm and comforting.
But I bet you're going to tell me to watch out for the sodium.
You know me too well. Always check those labels, look for low sodium options,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to jazz it up with extra veggies or your favorite seasonings.
Right. Good tips. What else do we have?
All right, how about some canned chili?
Ooh, yeah.
Hearty, filling, and perfect for a cold night. Basically a one-can meal.
Yeah. I can definitely see that being a pantry staple.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got soup and chili. Now, for those of us with a sweet tooth, we can't forget about canned fruit.
Absolutely. Just remember to opt for the fruit packed in juice, not syrup,
Yeah. Yeah, for a healthier choice.
Exactly. And here's one that might surprise you. Canned coconut milk.
Ooh, I love coconut milk. I usually just use it in curries, though. I bet it's more versatile than I realize.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It adds this creamy richness to both sweet and savory dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Smoothies, soups, sauces. The possibilities are endless.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
You too.
Are there any other, kind of unexpected heroes lurking in the canned goods aisle?
You bet. Canned potatoes and mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
They're often overlooked gems. Canned potatoes, great source of carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
You can use them in so many ways. Mashed, roasted, added to stews.
And mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Love those.
They're packed with flavor and nutrients.
Right.
Plus, they add this wonderful earthy depth to any dish.
Okay, I'm sold.
Right.
I'm already starting to rethink my entire approach to canned goods.
Yeah.
But before we go any further,
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about something really important.
Okay.
Flavor.
Ah, flavor.
Right, because a stockpile, no matter how big and how impressive it is, isn't much good if the food is bland and boring.
You hit the nail on the head. That's where our next category comes in.
Okay.
Flavor enhancers.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
These little additions, they can make all the difference, especially when you're working with a more limited pantry.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What kind of flavor-packed wonders do we have in store?
Let's start with canned olives.
Okay, yeah.
More than just a garnish, they're a good source of healthy fats, and they add a burst of that briny flavor to any dish.
Plus, they're great straight from the can. Just a snack.
Exactly. All right, now this next one might surprise you.
Okay.
Canned sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut, okay.
I know it doesn't exactly scream delicious, but trust me on this one.
Right.
Sauerkraut is a fermented food,
Okay.
which means it's packed with probiotics.
Probiotics. Those are good for gut health.
Exactly. They help maintain a healthy gut microbiome, which is, crucial for immunity and overall well-being.
Yeah.
And sauerkraut adds this tangy, complex flavor
Okay.
that can really liven up a meal.
But I've actually been trying to incorporate more fermented foods into my diet, so
Good for you.
I'm on board with that one.
Yeah.
I love sauerkraut on sandwiches with sausages.
Oh, yeah.
It's good stuff.
Delicious.
Okay, so we've got olives, we've got sauerkraut. To round out our flavor enhancers, I feel like we need something, like kind of basic, but essential.
Right.
What about canned gravy?
Oh, canned gravy. It might seem basic, but it can really elevate those simple pantry staples.
Totally.
Like mashed potatoes or rice.
Yeah, just add a little bit of flavor and moisture.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about making those basic ingredients more flavorful and satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, we need to talk about an often overlooked aspect of stockpiling.
Okay.
Drinks.
Drinks.
Yeah.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the food aspect of things,
Yeah.
but staying hydrated is just as important, especially in an emergency.
Absolutely. Water is essential, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but having some variety can be a real morale booster.
Totally, yeah. So what do we have besides water? I'm guessing canned juice is a good option.
Yeah. Canned vegetable juice,
Okay.
like V8. It's a great choice. convenient way to get a concentrated dose of vitamins and minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it helps with hydration, of course.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm a little surprised to see canned pumpkin on this list.
Pumpkin.
Yeah, it's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when I think of drinks.
I know it seems a bit unconventional.
Right.
But hear me out.
Right.
Pumpkin is packed with vitamins and fiber,
Mm-hmm.
and you can blend it into smoothies
Okay.
or use it to make delicious and nutritious soups.
All right, I'm intrigued. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
experiment with that one.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, right?
We have.
Protein powerhouses, vibrant veggies, hidden gems,
Mm-hmm.
and even those kind of unexpected pantry heroes.
Absolutely.
But before we move on to, the more practical side of building a stockpile,
Yeah.
I want to just pause for a second and acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Okay. What do you mean?
All this talk about prepping and stockpiling, it can feel a little overwhelming, even a bit scary for some people.
Right. Right.
I think it's important to address those feelings
Mm-hmm.
and talk about how to approach preparedness
Mm.
in a way that feels empowering, not anxiety-inducing.
You're absolutely right. It's so easy to get caught up in, like, those worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
We need to remember that preparing for the unexpected is ultimately about, taking care of ourselves and our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's about feeling confident and resilient, not fearful.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll explore, that practical side of building a stockpile.
Right.
Everything from meal planning to storage tips and budget-friendly strategies.
Yeah, we're going to give you all the tools and knowledge you need to create a stockpile that's not only practical, but also, enjoyable.
Right.
Because prepping shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel empowering.
Well said. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into the nitty-gritty
Yeah, let's get into
of building your ultimate canned food stockpile.
Can't wait.
All right.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we jumped into all the delicious possibilities of a well-stocked pantry,
Yeah.
you brought up a really important point. Prepping can feel kind of overwhelming
Yeah.
if we let those what-if scenarios,
Right.
take over.
It's true. I think sometimes the idea of prepping for an emergency can feel a bit like, well, facing an emergency in itself.
I totally get that. I think that's why it's so important to focus on the practical steps we can take to feel more prepared. Because when we shift our mindset from fear to action,
Yeah.
prepping becomes less about anxiety and more about empowerment.
I love that, from fear to action. And speaking of action, let's dive into that practical side
Let's do it.
of building a thriving canned food stockpile.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we even begin?
Okay, well, just like any healthy eating plan, balance is key. Think about those macronutrients.
Yeah.
Protein, carbohydrates, and fats.
Okay.
We want to make sure our stockpile has a good mix of each.
All right, so we've already talked about those protein powerhouses, the beans, the tuna, the salmon, canned chicken.
Yep.
Those are like our, building blocks.
Exactly. Now, to round things out, we need some good sources of carbohydrates. Canned potatoes are a fantastic option, versatile and packed with energy. And don't forget those canned fruits.
Okay, yeah.
They provide essential vitamins and a touch of sweetness, which can be a real morale booster in a tough situation.
Totally. Okay, so protein, carbs, check, check.
Yeah.
What about healthy fats?
Canned olives are a great choice, as is canned coconut milk. And remember, some canned fish, like salmon, are naturally rich in those heart-healthy omega-3 fats.
Got it. So it's really about diversifying our choices within each category.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how a well-stocked pantry can actually be quite diverse and delicious.
That's the goal. We want a stockpile that not only sustains us, but also keeps our taste buds happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of happy taste buds, I think it's time to talk about meal planning.
Okay.
Because in an emergency, the last thing I want to be doing is staring blankly into my pantry,
Right.
wondering what to make.
Absolutely. A little bit of planning can go a long way in reducing stress and making meal times, more enjoyable, even in a challenging situation.
So where do we begin? I'm picturing a giant spreadsheet with complex calculations and...
Oh, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Okay.
Start by brainstorming, some simple, nutritious meal that can be prepared quickly and easily using your stocked items.
For example, we could combine canned chicken, canned corn, and black beans for a quick and easy salad.
Yeah.
Or use those canned tomatoes, kidney beans, and some spices to whip up a hearty chili.
Those are great ideas. And remember, you can find tons of inspiration online. There are countless blogs and
Well, yeah.
websites dedicated to canned food recipes. You might be surprised at the culinary masterpieces you can create with a little creativity.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our balanced pantry. We've brainstormed some meal ideas. What's next on our, prepping checklist?
Well, let's talk about quantities. How much of each item should we aim to have on hand?
That's a great question. I'm assuming it depends on a few factors.
Absolutely. The size of your household, your individual dietary needs,
Okay.
and the length of time you're prepping for
Right.
all play a role.
Okay, so if I'm prepping for, let's say, a 2-week emergency,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a family of 4,
Okay.
I would need to calculate enough cans to provide 3 meals per day per person for 14 days.
Exactly. And remember, it's always better to have a little extra than not enough. You can always rotate your stock and use those older cans in your everyday meals.
Which reminds me, we need to talk about expiration dates.
You got it. Canned goods have a long shelf life, but they don't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Practice the FIFO method, first in, first out.
FIFO, okay. I've heard of that. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how to implement it in a practical way.
It's actually quite simple. When you restock your pantry, move the older cans to the front
Okay.
and place the newer cans behind them. This ensures that you're always using the oldest items first,
Okay.
minimizes waste, and ensures that your stockpile stays fresh.
That makes so much sense. I'm definitely going to start doing that. Now, I know storage can be a challenge,
Yeah.
especially for those of us who don't have a ton of space.
Right.
Any tips on maximizing storage efficiency?
Think vertical.
Okay.
Utilize shelves, racks, even ceiling space to
Mhm.
store your stockpile. You can also use clear storage bins to keep things organized and easy to access.
I love that. Clear bins are a great idea because then you can actually see what you have.
Exactly. And don't forget to label everything clearly. That way you can quickly find what you need in a pinch.
Great tip.
Uh,
All right, so we've covered balance, meal planning, quantities, expiration dates, storage.
we're on a roll.
What else do we need to consider?
Well, let's talk about budget.
Okay.
Building a stockpile can seem daunting financially, but it doesn't have to break the bank.
Okay, that's a relief to hear.
Mm.
Because let's be real, grocery bills are already high enough these days.
Exactly. But there are definitely ways to make it more affordable. Start by gradually incorporating canned goods into your regular grocery shopping. Look for sales and discounts, and stock up when you find a good deal.
I love that. That's like a manageable approach that
Mhm.
doesn't feel overwhelming.
Right.
And what about those, giant warehouse stores?
Oh,
I
yeah.
know they often have bulk discounts.
You're right. Buying in bulk can save you money in the long run,
Mm.
especially for those staple items
Yeah.
like canned beans and tomatoes.
Right.
Just make sure you have enough storage space
All right.
before you go on a bulk buying spree.
Good point.
Yeah.
And what about farmers markets? I love buying fresh produce there.
Oh, farmers markets are a fantastic resource. You can often find fresh fruits and vegetables at great prices, and then you can can them yourself.
Canning. That sounds a bit intimidating.
It might seem daunting at first, but it's actually quite simple and rewarding. There are tons of resources available online and in libraries
Oh, yeah.
that can guide you through the process.
So not only can we, save money by canning our own produce,
Mm-hmm.
but we can also learn a valuable skill
Yes.
that connects us to a more traditional way of preserving food.
Exactly. It's like bringing a bit of that homesteading spirit
Yeah.
into our modern lives. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover a hidden talent for preserving delicious homemade jams and pickles.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued.
Yeah.
So we've talked about balancing our nutrients, planning our meals, stocking up strategically,
Mhm.
and even stretching our budget. I'm feeling much more confident about, that practical side of prepping.
Mhm.
But I think there's still one piece of the puzzle missing.
Okay, what's that?
Well, we've talked a lot about the physical aspects of preparedness,
Yeah.
but what about the mental and emotional side? How do we stay calm
Mm.
and focused in
Yeah.
the face of uncertainty?
That's a fantastic question, and it's something we'll dive into in our next segment.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Because a well-stocked pantry is just one part of the equation.
absolutely.
We also need a well-stocked mind and spirit to truly thrive in any situation.
Well said. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore the power of community, mindset, and staying informed. Because remember, prepping is not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
After our last conversation, I'm feeling so much more confident about the practical side of prepping. It's amazing how just little planning and strategizing can really take away so much of that anxiety around it.
Absolutely. And now that we have those practical tools in our belt, it's time to explore, the mental and emotional aspects of preparedness.
Hmm.
Because let's be real, a well-stocked pantry is only part of the equation.
Yeah, you're so right. We could have all the supplies in the world, but if we're not mentally and emotionally prepared, it's not going to do us much good.
Mm.
So how do we cultivate, that inner sense of readiness and resilience?
Well, one powerful way is through community. Connecting with like-minded individuals, sharing knowledge, and supporting each other can make a world of difference.
It's like that old saying, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
There's something so empowering about knowing you're not alone in this journey.
Exactly. And it's not just about practical support, like
Yeah.
sharing resources or helping each other out in an emergency. It's also about emotional support. Knowing that there are other people out there who understand your concerns and are working towards the same goals can be incredibly reassuring.
I can definitely see that. Sometimes just talking to someone who gets it can help alleviate so much anxiety. But I have to admit, I've always kind of thought of prepping as a somewhat solitary activity. Is community really that important, even if you're, just preparing for kind of those common emergencies like power outages or storms?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Imagine a neighborhood where everyone knows each other, has a basic emergency plan, and is willing to help each other out. That kind of community resilience can make a huge difference in how a community weathers a storm, both literally and figuratively.
Wow, that's a powerful image. It
Yeah.
really shifts the focus, from individual survival to like collective well-being. So how can our listeners start building those connections and kind of finding their preparedness community?
Well, there's a whole world of resources out there. You can start by exploring online forums and social media groups dedicated to prepping or emergency preparedness. There are also often local groups that meet in person. Check out community centers, libraries, or even faith-based organizations. A lot of them offer classes or workshops on various preparedness topics.
Okay, so we've got online communities, in-person groups, classes, and workshops. It sounds like there's something for everyone. Now, beyond finding our tribe, what are some other ways that we can cultivate that sense of mental and emotional preparedness?
Mindset is everything. It's about shifting from a place of fear and anxiety to a place of empowerment and proactive action. Instead of dwelling on worst case scenarios, focus on what you can control: your knowledge, your skills, and your preparations.
It's about taking ownership of our preparedness journey and approaching it with a sense of confidence and purpose, not letting fear be the driving force.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of staying informed. Keep up to date on potential threats and hazards in your area. Now, this doesn't mean obsessing over the news 24/7, but rather just staying aware of potential risks so you can make informed decisions.
Knowledge is power, right? It can really help to dispel those irrational fears and replace them with a sense of agency. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that all of this, building a stockpile, connecting with community, shifting our mindset, it can feel like a lot. Where do we even begin?
That's a great point. It's important to remember that preparedness is a journey, not a destination. Start small, focus on one step at a time, and celebrate your progress along the way. Don't try to do everything at once. It's a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, that's such good advice. Sometimes we get so caught up in the big picture that we forget to appreciate those small victories along the way. And, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, 'cause I keep coming back to that word you used earlier, thriving. It's such a powerful concept because
Yeah.
prepping isn't just about surviving. It's about creating a life that feels resilient, resourceful, and yes, even joyful.
Beautifully said. It's about feeling confident and prepared to face whatever challenges life may bring, not just surviving, but thriving. And I think that's a great note to end on.
I agree. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to not only build your canned food stockpile, but also to cultivate that inner sense of preparedness that comes from community knowledge and a positive mindset.
Remember, a well-stocked pantry is more than just food. It's a source of comfort, resilience, and peace of mind.
Until next time, stay curious, stay prepared, and keep exploring.